Stop chasing love and relationships. I'm going to invite you to do this instead. Whether you are a man or a woman, this video applies to all of you because we need to stop chasing men, stop chasing women, stop chasing love, stop chasing a relationship. You know, if I'm being really candid with you all, I've been chasing love my whole life. It started with the programming I was raised with growing up. Tell me if you've heard the same thing growing up. If you're a tail end baby boomer or a Gen Xer, like in that cusp, if you will, I know I was raised with the go to college, get a job, meet a girl or guy, get married, buy a house, start a family. That was my programming. And I suspect the same was for many of you as well. Did you have that programming? And many of you followed it to a T. In fact, many of you probably got married in your 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, even some of you in your late 30s. But if you, like me, you found yourself in a circumstance where you weren't really ready for a relationship. Maybe you had even a Cinderella kind of story. And let me explain what I mean by this. I don't know if any of you remember the TV show Heart to Heart, which came out in the late 70s and early 80s. I was a big fan of this show, which included Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers, and the on-screen chemistry the two of these had, and their relationship seemed so spectacular that this was my Cinderella story of sorts. Many of you watched movies beyond the Disney, and to some degree, this became our role models of what we think love and relationships look like. And now I think back over the last 40 years, my programming, that desire for a relationship, that desire for that romantic relationship illustrated in that TV show, created this drive to want to partner with someone. Now, you see, I fell into the trap also of believing that chemistry equals relationship success. And more importantly, as a man, chasing sex would lead me to the one. Boy, was I off the mark. The drive for sex doesn't make us men any better prepared for a relationship or any better prepared for choosing. Because when you've heard the narrative, men are hunters, men love the chase, right? When you hear that narrative, whether you're a man or a woman, what is it that we men are chasing? We're not chasing oftentimes, I want a relationship. I want a relationship. I'm going to shoot my bow and arrow and I'm going to land a relationship. That's not how it works. We oftentimes chase that physical connection, which may or may not lead to a relationship. But remember, we've been so programmed to want to mate, both from a biological perspective, let me reframe that, in a biological perspective, but sometimes in a short term versus a long term. And sadly, let me share with you today that has amplified this chase narrative that didn't exist 20 or 30 years ago. I was processing this the other day, and tell me if this relates to you or not, but I think online dating now, the swipe apps in particular, has forced us in some sort of chase for attention, a chase for connection, a dopamine hit. It's like just that the hamster getting the pellet all the time. It forces us in an unnatural approach to love. And worse, it accelerates the process because oftentimes lust or limerence rules the process. Let me repeat that, lust or limerence. Now, lust, we know, is that physical drive to be that drive to physically be intimate with someone. But also limerence, if you're not familiar with it, I invite you to Google that right now, whether you're a man or woman. Limerence is extreme infatuation. It amazes me how this accelerated dating process that we're in with online dating, this almost chase narrative that has been developed, particularly since swipe apps have been invented. And that's only been around for about 5, 6, 7, 8 years, give or take, by the time I record this video. It has accelerated that process to almost force us into chasing love and a relationship. And the problem is we're also experiencing what's known as paradox of choice. Please, someone write this in the chat box or in the comment section. Paradox of choice. And I want you to check out the TED Talk on paradox of choice. And what that means is, with all these, like, it's like going to a electronics store and there's 100 television sets, all the same size, all different makers, different different brand, different models, different brands, different functionalities. Do you know how hard it is to pick out of 100? This is exactly what we're experiencing in the dating marketplace. And it's causing many humans to make choices that are not in their best interest. And sadly, because we don't know someone's genuine intentions, do they have a short-term mating strategy or a long-term mating strategy? Jonathan, what's the difference between the two, you might ask? Well, a short-term mating strategy is just living in the moment. And it's kind of like, I think of the Wayne Dyer quote I once heard, and I'm not sure this is his quote, but I once heard him say, "I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it." In other words, they have to wait to see something before they make a decision, versus when I believe it, I will see it. When I believe it, I will see it. When I believe it, I will see it. What that means to me, particularly in the context of relationships, when you set a long-term intention, in other words, you set the intention you want a life partner, you set that as your intention, then you're more mindful in the approach of how you're going to navigate this process. This is why right at this very moment, I'm going to announce something that I just briefly touched upon in previous videos, but I want to amplify this today, because when I say do this instead, this is my invitation for everyone going forward. I want everybody to start in the friend zone. Bump, bump, bump. Okay, now, I know you've heard when somebody is put into the friend zone. Certainly for your men that are listening, and you've heard you have been put in the friend zone. What that means is that a woman who is interested in you isn't interested in sex with you. They put you in the friend zone. And certainly women do the same, women do that with men. Men do that with women as well, except men will have sex with a woman in the friend zone. Okay, that's called a friend with benefits, but usually it doesn't work the other way around. So you're probably thinking, Jonathan, I don't like this idea of starting in the friend zone. What starting in the friend zone means is I'm here to encourage that we take out the romantic element of the initial dating process. We take out the romantic element. Now, let me just explain why. I personally believe romance should be reserved for couples in a relationship versus an entry point in relationship, because romance clouds judgment. Let me repeat that. Romance clouds judgment. So our current narrative is men must climb to the highest room of the tallest tower to prove himself to this woman. And today we are meeting total strangers. How do we know we even like a person if we haven't spent a little bit of time? But our current narrative is men must do all of the heavy lifting in the early dating process, and it sets women up for failure. And let me explain what I mean by failure. It sets up an expectation. Men are supposed to do more in the initial stages, number one. But number two, if men are doing more and they change their mind, what ends up happening is they look like jackasses for making effort when they've changed their mind. We need to start from the friend zone is my invitation for everyone. And what I mean to say is build trust. Build trust. Instead of chasing love, instead of chasing people, instead of chasing a relationship, I'm here to encourage building trust with another human being. How do we build trust? Well, first, we share a bit about ourselves. We become vulnerable. We become transparent. We become authentic with this person. This is partly how to build trust. Another way to build trust is through the experiences of doing things together, like social activities, like hobbies, like mutual interests, like eventually spending time with family and friends. It's in the doing of things that you actually begin to get to know a person through a variety of different circumstances. See, when we build a relationship on a solid foundation of trust, it's not chasing, it's building. And that's my invitation for everyone. Instead of chasing love and relationships, we've been programmed to do. I'm here to encourage a co-creative process that is not dictated by the man leading the process. But Jonathan, all the feminine energy dating coaches say I must just sit my feminine energy and let a man lead. Well, if that is such a profound, excellent way for relationships to work, why are people so radically miserable today? What's fascinating to me, my clients who go through my private boot camp, particularly I work with women, but some men as well. They take all the workbooks that I've created for them and they actually use this in the dating process for having conversations and dialogues. If you're not familiar with Lewis Howes, he has the podcast called The School of Greatness. I'm using his as the example right now because he intentionally, in his current relationship where he's engaged, but during that early stages, he actually said, can we have deep introspective conversations with one another? Can we talk about these radically honest things before we ever embark in the romantic aspect of the relationship? Now, this is anecdotal in the sense what I've heard in the backstory. I haven't spoken to him personally, but what I respect about that and what I'm encouraging everyone to do is operate with a sense of intentionality. That's what we should be doing instead, is vetting people. Do we share the same values with one another? Are our lifestyles blendable with one another? And most importantly, are you even emotionally grown up to be in a relationship? Do you know how many deeply wounded people we have out there that are seeking companionship, connection, and physical intimacy, but have no capacity for commitment? Can I repeat that? Do you know how many people are out there who want some companionship, they want some connection, they want some sex, but they have no capacity for commitment? Now, maybe you have a short-term mating strategy and that's okay for you. Maybe you're gun shy about being in a relationship. Maybe you're okay just living in the moment. The problem with that narrative is the minute we become physically intimate with someone, I don't mean this to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Pious, if you will, or what's the word for religious? But I'm here to advocate that physical intimacy should be something either sacred or it should be engaged when you are both on the same page. In other words, you are in integrity with each other. Because what I'm saying is two people can be in integrity with each other, not seeking long-term relationship. That's okay. But if one person wants one thing and another person wants another thing, and you're not in integrity with each other, that's a recipe for disaster. That's number one. But more importantly, when you've entered into the process saying, I want a long-term relationship, whether you're a man or woman, and you begin down the physical path, it can be rather heartbreaking to find that this person isn't on the same page with you. This is why I'm inviting everyone to start from the friend zone. That doesn't mean meaning putting someone in the no sex zone. It means building trust with this other person. I'm going to share with everybody something that will build trust. By the way, listed below in my show notes is something known as my dating vows. My dating vows. Here's a list of it, okay? All right, it says, have you ever heard the saying, women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of commitment? The dating vows are 5 agreements you make with each other before you begin the physical, or you go down the physical bandwagon of sex. And it starts like this. You state your name, agree to explore the process of getting to know you with the intent to declare something serious in the next 3 to 6 months. That's setting an intention. That's way more powerful than going, hey, let's just take it slow. Let's wing it. You know what? I'm not looking for anything serious. The minute two people are physically intimate, I think it's time to take it serious. Number two, I agree to be monogamous sexually while we have regular sex together. I think that's out of common courtesy. We should be doing that. I agree not to actively seek and meet and date others while we're in the dating process, including taking down our dating profiles. I agree to speak up if this isn't working for me versus pulling back, ghosting, and disappearing. And I agree to invest regular time together in the process of getting to know you, which looks like social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, that sort of thing. Now, a lot of people won't agree to this. In fact, thousands of people won't make any agreements before physical intimacy. But if you try my dating vows early on and you establish some trust early on, you have a greater foundation to build a relationship on. Stop chasing a relationship. Stop chasing love. You know, many of us have had deep childhood wounds or adult traumas. Many of us have an abandonment wound. Many of us have a rejection wound that comes from one or both of our parents. Many of us are experiencing childhood wounds. And in addition, many of us have experienced a deeper wound. In fact, a significant percentage of people watching this are most likely divorced. Roughly 75% of people over 45 years old that are in the dating marketplace are divorced. That's a very traumatic experience. And by the way, that's marriage. What about a treasured relationship that ends? That can be the equivalent of PTSD. I want to encourage everyone right now, if you haven't done this before, is to do some inner work. I constantly recommend books like The Hoffman Process. This is a deep dive into healing childhood wounds in adult. By the way, links below to get all the books I recommend. There's another book I recommend, Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. And there's a third book I'm recommending tonight, and that's Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Why do I recommend these three books? And one more book, okay? It's by the Gottmans, the renowned therapist. John and Julie Gottman wrote a book called 8 Dates. Why am I recommending these 4 books listed below? Folks, before you embark on this desire for a life partner, for love, for a relationship, before you embark on that, do some inner work. These 4 books should be completed before you ever embark on this. Why, you might say, Jonathan? Because what's the definition of insanity? And please forgive any mental health people that have been triggered by that word I just said. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The reality is today, our current dating market system is broken. Our current process of dating is broken. We have a sea of dysfunctional human beings out in the marketplace. How do we navigate this? By starting in the friend zone, by building real trust with another human being before you embark on that physical bandwagon. And it's not the man's job to lead the process. It's about 2 people holding hands saying, I want to get to know you mutually, intimately, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. The reason why I'm taking it out of men's hands is because you ladies get frustrated when a man shows a bit of interest because he's been expected to do that. And then he's like, I'm not that interested in you. And he pulls away. And then we judge men for this. And ladies, you do the same thing as well. So I'm here to encourage an alternate way of doing things. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know if it is. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, they're in the show notes. There's links to schedule a discovery call with me. There's a link to follow me on Instagram. There's a link to get all the books I recommend. I better turn off my phone. They're all listed below.